Hello, everyone. Welcome to lifelikeyoumeanit.com. I'm Lisa Sabaniak, and I am doing this live event today to help you to deal with negative thoughts and or anxiety. Oftentimes those things go hand in hand, and I am one of the people who would suffer from these types of things as well. I do my absolute best to try to overcome that on a regular basis, and I thought that maybe I could provide some tips that might help you to overcome it as well. So a little bit about me if you don't know my backstory. I went through 10 years of child abuse from the age of 2 until I was 12. And that took on many forms, but the one that was the most difficult for me to get over, and I still struggle with from time to time today, is the emotional or psychological abuse that I endured. So what that looked like was my stepfather telling me that I was ugly and stupid and worthless and useless, and nobody was ever going to love me. And you can imagine being only 2 years old all the way up to 12 years old. Those were my real formative years. And so this had a really, really negative impact on my self-worth. So basically that was in tatters as I entered my teen years. The teen years are filled with all kinds of other issues that go on with hormonal changes and friendship changes and all the rest of it. And so I really struggled quite a bit with really finding myself. And finding respect for myself and love for myself. So I was filled with quite a bit of negativity. I saw any bright situation as something that was negative, mainly because I didn't think that I deserved anything better. So, it wasn't a conscious thought, but deep down inside, after I did a bunch of, other work on myself, I came to realize that really at the core was what I was struggling with. So through my teen years and into my early 20s, I really took any negative situation and thought to myself, well, of course that's going to happen because I'm ugly and stupid and worthless and useless. And I just took his words and made them into my own mantra. And when anything went great, I just waited for the next shoe to drop because, of course, I was stupid and ugly and worthless and useless. You get the gist. So eventually, at some point, things shifted for me. I just had kind of an awakening, an epiphany, if you will, where I just saw myself for what I was, what I was doing to myself. I started to realize that I was putting myself in this situation. I wasn't responsible for my child abuse at all. I wasn't responsible for being in the life of this person who was abusing me. I wasn't responsible for staying in the life of this person who was abusing me. And I certainly wasn't responsible for being abused. But I was responsible for carrying it with me and letting myself relive it over and over and over again. I was responsible for letting it define me. And with that kind of self-discovery, I ended up looking at things a lot differently and started to try to find the positive in myself mainly. And that ended up leading to finding the positive in everyday situations. So I find now that if I tell anybody that I had this problem before of being such a negative person, they don't believe me. They really, truly think that I'm making it up because I have this knack now of taking any situation, anything that happens to me, and finding that silver lining. So that is a real gift, I think, to be able to do that. But it was something I had to learn. I wasn't just born with that skill. And I still experience anxiety and I still experience some negative thoughts. And that mantra still plays for me from time to time. So I thought that if I put together some tips for you, that maybe you could relate to this a little bit. And maybe some of the things that helped me would help you. So my first tip is to, when you're in a situation where you are feeling anxiety or negativity, is to look at the reality. Give yourself a reality check of this. Think about all of the things in your past that you have been able to get past. You have been able to live through. You're still here. There's so many things in your life that you have successfully survived. And a lot of those things were probably things that caused you a great amount of anxiety in that moment. but you got past it. And a few months later or a few years later, or maybe for some people it's only a few days later, but at some point you do lose track of just how much anxiety that particular event caused you. You remember it, but not really clear as day. You remember that you spent a lot of your time worrying about it, but you now realize that things actually worked out. So my first tip is for you to actually remember the things that you have been able to get through, the things that caused you so much struggle and so much despair in that moment that you were so anxious about, so worried about, and remember that you actually survived, that you got past it. And you know what? You'll get past this as well. Whatever is causing you to worry, you will get past that as well. One of the examples that I like is something that happened to me really recently, which was I joined a workshop. It was a free event that was going on online, and it was for webinars. It was a webinar about using webinars to build your business. And the webinar, I was so excited about this because I was very new to webinars and I really wanted to learn how to use it properly. And I signed on for this, and the first 3 seconds went great. And then tragically, all of these things just started going wrong for this poor person. And of course, he's holding a webinar about webinars and using it for your business, and he's losing Wi-Fi connection. There was audio lost at one point. There was about a 30-second delay on things. He couldn't see some comments that were popping up. That was being delayed far too long. And there were 1,000 people on the call. And I sat there, my first thought was to think, oh my God, if this happened to me when I was holding a webinar, it's like my worst nightmare. And then I sat there and I thought for the next 30 seconds and the next 3 minutes, and each time after that something went wrong, I thought, who cares? Like, I'm still here. I'm still on this call. I realize that everybody is human. Every time something would go on wrong, he wouldn't try to spend too much time worrying about it. He would just say, bear with me. So sorry, we're having some technical difficulties. And he'd just move on. And he would say, this is the type of thing that you have to deal with when you're doing a webinar. You just don't know what's going to go on. Every webinar is going to be different. And it made me think about my acting experience when we would be up on stage. And even though it was a script and we were well used to the script, we all knew our lines, every show was completely different because somebody was going to mess up. Right? Somebody was going to forget a line or was going to get caught up in the moment, maybe start chuckling because an audience member started to chuckle. And every show was different. And it didn't mean that one show was perfect and the ones that messed up weren't perfect. In some ways, that actually made it more perfect when there was a mess up. And that got me thinking, what is this perfection that we're all striving for? Is it possible that instead of perfection being something that everything has to fit in this mold and be absolutely perfect, maybe perfection is actually more like things go wrong, you acknowledge that they've gone wrong, you let it kind of roll off your back, you learn from it, and you make sure that you try not to make that mistake again. Maybe that's actually perfection. So I try to live my life that way. And so I think that is a really great way of trying to deal with anxiety in that particular moment. Because a lot of time for me, anxiety is about it going perfect. I was really, really anxious when I was sitting here getting ready for this call. Just went out for dinner with friends and had to run off. I see one of them has just posted on here. Nice to meet you too. Thanks, Matt. And so, gone out for dinner, come rushing back, trying to get all organized. I'm huffing and puffing because I'm out of shape. I'm thinking, oh my God, what if I, mess up? I haven't really looked at what it is I want to say in a few hours. What if I forget? And then I reminded myself about this whole webinar experience and thought, who cares if I mess up? This is a live event. In some ways, that would actually make it perfect. So sorry, just got a message that popped up for me. So my second piece of advice then is to, again, with the reality check, look at it and ask yourself, is this really something that is going to make a big difference? Is this something that instead of it being a big deal, that maybe it is perfect in the fact that it is messing up. That maybe those little imperfections that happen in life that are so common are maybe actually what makes it perfect. And instead of trying to find the absolute best of everything and everything that you do, that it's more about being honest with yourself afterwards and being proud of yourself for what you were able to do. I keep getting these messages, for example, right now that my Facebook page manager is not working. I don't even know what that means. So I'm hoping that I'm still actually getting people on the call now. I may have cut out for all I know. And you know what? If I do, who cares, right? It's all about in those perfect moments, right? So my second piece of advice is look at the thing that's giving you the negativity or the thing that's giving you the anxiety right now. Have a really good look at it and maybe even write down what it is that's giving you the anxiety. And sometimes that's really important to write it down so that you can reflect on it later and ask yourself, what is it that you actually have control over? Do you have control over any of it? I am not a technology wizard over here, and I'm trying to hold a Facebook Live event. I try to hold webinars. I try to write a blog with a website. I don't know what I'm doing. Things go wrong all the time. Do I have any control over that? Nope, I don't. All I can do is, hire the right person to help me with my website. Check. Write a great blog that has content. Hopefully, check. Ask for assistance when I need it. Check. And just put myself out there and try my hardest to do the best job that I can. If I have a technology fail, I have a technology fail. There's nothing I can do about that. Certainly worrying about whether or not that's going to happen is pointless. It's wasted energy that I could be putting into what I'm actually doing. So I bet you, if you have things, especially things that cause you regular anxiety, but even if it's things that are time to time, every now and then, if you're doing everything that you need to, for example, maybe you're anxious about getting up in front of your class and doing a presentation that your teacher has asked you to do. If you're prepared for that presentation, that's the best that you can do. You've done your research. You know what it is that you're going to talk about. Maybe you've made little notes that you're going to bring up there with you. You've got it. That's all that you can do. You have no control over how other people are going to react. You have no control over whether or not you're going to stumble over your words, right? So let it go. Let it go and just be in that moment and have the pride in yourself, the respect of yourself to know that whatever happens, you are going to be able to handle it. And you know that you are because you've handled everything else before. Right? Back to that step one piece of advice. You have handled things before. You've survived and you've survived well, and you can do it again. My third piece of advice is rather than focusing on the problem, let's focus on the solution. And sometimes the solution is really difficult to see, and sometimes you don't have any control or power over that solution. Again, going back to that webinar example, that webinar about webinars that was going completely wrong, they had no control over that. They were having a Wi-Fi issue. They were trying to run it out of a hotel. What are you going to do about that, right? Are you going to pick up everything in the middle of a webinar and try to get to a coffee shop where they've got better Wi-Fi? Probably not. Right? So sometimes the solution is not actually within your control, but most times on your regular day to day, the solution is the only thing that you do have control over. And focusing on that solution is in itself focusing on the positive. In itself, it's putting this energy out there that says, I'm going to succeed at this. I have a solution in place. So these are my 3 tips for you. I hope that they were helpful. So if I just rephrase, the first one is take a reality check. Think about all the things in the past that you have been able to successfully get through. Give yourself a moment, pat yourself on the back for those things. That is no small feat. All of the things, big or small, you've made it already. And all the worrying that you did about those things, that passed. Right? The event happened or, whatever it was, and you were fine. If that's happened before, it will happen again. Second one, take a look at the 3 things that you're trying to control. Maybe it's 5 things, maybe it's 10 things. What is it that you are trying to control with what is giving you the anxiety? Do you actually have any control over it? And if you don't, throw it away. And that's why I like you to write it down, because you can actually crumple it up and throw it away. Just get rid of it. Not important. You have no control over it. And the third thing is to focus on the solution. What is it that you could be doing? Putting your energies into something to make it better, rather than focusing on the actual problem, which could actually make it worse. I hope that you found this helpful and interesting. If you'd like to go to my page, either on Facebook, Life Like You Mean It, or if you would like to go to my website itself, www.lifelikeyoumeanit.com, read any of my blogs, see all the different things that I offer for support, lots of different free Facebook Lives and free workshops and other types of things I offer as well, as including personal mentoring. So I'd be happy to speak to you on a complimentary call if you like. The link is straight on my website for you to just go ahead and book that today. Thank you and have a great day.